I hadn't even gotten out of bed when the notification lit up my phone: Vanessa Kincaid, the fraudulent hero from Boston. The article was a brutal patchwork of half-truths and insinuations, quoting an unnamed source who claimed I was nothing more than a glorified translator and had used a child for political leverage. They didn't need to name Luis, everyone knew who they meant. The comments came fast. Hundreds. Then thousands. I stopped counting. Just another feel-good story. Unraveling at ratings season. I feel worse for her family than for her. She played everyone. I couldn't breathe. The air in my apartment felt thick, like I was moving through syrup. My limbs slow. My heart too loud. I didn't check my messages. I didn't answer calls. I didn't open a single app. I shut it all down and stared at the ceiling while the headlines echoed in my head. The community center I'd been building, my dream project, was suspended by noon. One of the largest donors pulled out. Reputational concerns, they said. I didn't even blame them. I'd gone from White House honoree to public liability in days. That night, I curled on my bed, gripping my green field notebook, the one filled with case notes. Names. Dates. Tiny, human moments. A woman who gave birth in the back of a pickup. A boy who didn't speak for months after his uncle vanished. A school made from cardboard and crayons. I read them all like scripture. Not to fight the story being told, but to remind myself I had lived these moments. They were real. Then Marcus called. The quiet tech guy from the org, all soft hoodies and facts. I wasn't snooping, he said, but I traced the original email that tipped off the tabloid. I sat up. My heart sank. It came from a corporate server in Cambridge. Kincaid Holdings. Bradley. That evening, I drove to his house. No call ahead. No front door. I waited on the back porch in the cold until he came. He looked annoyed. You seriously came here? I asked him, simply. You sent it? He didn't deny it. I did what had to be done. You think you can use our name for every sob story and I'm supposed to applaud it? You helped me with geography homework. I whispered. That was before you became a media liability. And he shut the door back at my apartment. I stared into the mirror, hollow-eyed. If the truth needs a defense, I asked it, is it still the truth? But my fingers moved. They opened the suspended proposal. I added a single line to the title page. No applause needed. Just stand your ground. Then came the podcast. A friend texted me, you seeing this? Your mom's on that viral show. Lucille, with her polished smile and pearl earrings, chuckled when asked about me being called a hero. Vanessa's always had a flair for the dramatic, she said. I wouldn't be surprised if she embellished things. I played the clip. Again. And again. The smirk in her voice. The indulgent cruelty. Reaction videos piled on. Even her mom says she's a liar. This is classic attention-seeker behavior. By the end of the day, another third of donors were gone. Our nonprofit partner issued a pause in collaboration. No one called. Not even to ask if I was okay. I wrote an email. Poised. Precise. Dismantling. Every lie from Lucille's interview, but I didn't send it. Because the louder I shouted, the more they'd distort my voice. I sat in the dark, laptop glow against my skin. Out of some fragile hope, I called my dad. Do you believe it? I asked. He sighed. Your mother has her way of thinking. You have yours. But what do you think? Another pause. I think you should let it go. The media always finds a new target. That was it. The last thread. Cut. That night, I stood by the office window, watching the city fade into snow. I whispered to my reflection, I thought I got used to being the outsider. I didn't think the people who raised me would be the ones to push me off the edge. Marcus called again. His voice was tight. The fraud email? The one that tanked your center? I traced it. Kincaid Holdings, Boston Division. Bradley's territory. 24 pages. That's how much it took to sabotage a life. When Marcus handed me the printout, I didn't use gloves. I held it like a weight I needed to feel. I walked into Bradley's house at 6:32 p.m. Savannah was laughing until she saw me. I placed the pages on the dining room table. She scoffed. You gonna see your own family now? I ignored her. I looked at Bradley. You once promised to teach me how to swim. Said you'd never let me drown. But you didn't tell me the hand pushing me under would be yours. He said nothing. Savannah looked away. I left a copy on the kitchen counter. Scribbled across the top, I won't break this family's name. I'll rebuild my own. That night, Elijah messaged me. The White House still wanted to offer me the podium. If you're ready, he said. I was forced to be ready years ago, I replied. The James S. Brady briefing room was quiet, still. I walked to the mic with nothing but truth. I'm not here to defend myself, I said. I'm here to recount what happened, with evidence, with testimony, and with heart. Photos. Videos. A nurse's letter. Footage of me pulling Luis into safety. And then, the screen behind me lit up. Luis, older now, live from Arizona, she helped me because I was scared, he said. And because she saw me as a person. The room went silent. Not out of doubt, out of respect, then I turned to the lies. Headline by headline, I dismantled them. I smiled. If I orchestrated a narrative, I must be a terrible director, because I never wrote the part where my own family loves me. Laughter, this time warm. Human. Real.by the end, hashtag Vanessa Concade trended. From scapegoat to speaker. She wouldn't be erased. A reporter asked if I had a message from my family. I answered, I'm not here to speak for people who chose silence or lies. I walked out slowly. Elijah waiting in the hall. You made the whole country listen to someone they were trained to ignore. Within hours, the storm hit, but not at me. At them, hashtag Concade scandal erupted. News outlets traced everything. The email came from Bradley's corporate account. He stepped down. Savannah's past remarks and staged charity work went viral. She lost sponsors. They unfollowed each other. Lucille's cocktail gala clip surfaced. Vanessa always chose things beneath her. She was never one of us. Charities dropped her. Her redemption interview only made things worse, and then, my father called. Maybe it's time we sat down. We're still family. Reconciliation doesn't come from fear, I said. It comes from remorse. You still don't know the difference. My words were printed the next morning, from silence to voice, a daughter's refusal to return. But I didn't retaliate. I didn't sue. I explained in a live stream forgiveness isn't about giving someone peace. It's about freeing yourself from their grip. And I'm not there yet. And that's okay. Instead, I rebuilt the new center, half funded by grassroots donations. A letter from the White House. An invitation to the Women of Impact Awards. That Christmas, I received a letter from my father. Your mother packed all your photos into an album. She won't say it, but maybe it means something. Maybe you could come home. I didn't reply. I rented a community hall. Wrapped it in lights. Called it Open Table.no name cards. No dress codes. Just stories, a teen disowned for being non-binary. A mother rejected for keeping her baby. An old man left behind. We ate. We laughed. We cried, and then I saw him. Luis. Older now. Arm around his mother. His sister clinging to him. He hugged me. You didn't just save me. You taught me how to be someone worth saving. That did it. I didn't fall apart. I came whole. A clip of us, candles behind, was uploaded to YouTube. The table she built. 0.7 million views. Donations flooded in. Invitations. Campaigns. I almost said no, but then I remembered, I wasn't a survivor. I was a builder. Back at my tiny apartment, I opened my laptop and typed the first line of what may one day be a book. I used to think if I worked hard enough, they'd see me as worthy. But I always was. They just weren't capable of seeing it. Outside, snow. Inside, light. I wasn't waiting anymore. I was building. They didn't even bother to text me, just forwarded an invite thread I wasn't on. My name wasn't there. It was like I'd never even been their daughter. Christmas is going to be smaller this year, Mom had said the week before. But it wasn't. I saw the photos, matching pajamas, a candlelit table, 12 wine glasses, 12 plates. I wasn't one of them anymore. No one said it out loud, but I had been cut out. I stood alone in my small apartment, the blinking lights on my tree casting soft shadows across the room. I had decorated it myself. There was only one gift underneath, for my niece, wrapped months earlier. I never got to give it. There's something crueler than being forgotten, it's being excluded on purpose. Silently. Like your presence would have ruined everything. Like your absence made the air easier to breathe. I didn't cry this time. I poured a glass of red wine, turned on the TV, and mindlessly flipped through channels, as if that could numb the sting. Then came the message, is that you on CNN? Then another. And another. They didn't invite me to Christmas. But now they were all watching me, live, at the White House Christmas dinner, seated just 2 chairs away from the First Lady. Funny how tables turn, funny how silence echoes differently when the whole world is listening, and under that historic ceiling, surrounded by leaders, survivors, and changemakers, I didn't toast to revenge. I toasted to freedom, but how I got there, that wasn't luck. It wasn't a miracle. It was worn now. I'm ready to tell you how I fought it. Before I share my story, I just want to know that you're with me. Drop a listening in the comments, or tell me where you're watching from. Sometimes the smallest connection can shift everything, and if this story touches you, please consider subscribing. It means more than you know. The email came on a gray Tuesday in early December. I had just poured myself a bitter black coffee, still wearing the same flannel hoodie I'd slept in, when I saw the name in my inbox, Lucille Concade. My mother.no subject line. Just this, Vanessa, to keep Christmas warm and light this year, I think it's better you don't come home. The family atmosphere needs to stay peaceful. No love, Mom. No signature. Just that. I didn't cry. I didn't even sigh. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. It wasn't rage I felt. It was emptiness, dull, heavy, and expected. I'd been a misfit in my own family for a decade. A sore tooth they didn't want to poke, while my parents perfected the concave image: Ronald, my silent father; Lucille, my calculating mother. And my brother Bradley, the Harvard to boardroom poster child. I had chosen something else. I worked in a cramped little office in South Boston, coordinating interpreters for refugee centers and managing urgent cases for undocumented minors. Not exactly Christmas card material. I remember once calling my mom to share good news. I'd just been promoted to director of humanitarian programs. There was a pause on the line. Then a soft chuckle. So how long until charity stops making? You broke? I never forgot those words. So no, her email didn't shock me. But it still left a mark. Then, on December 20th, my phone rang. I was finalizing arrangements for a newly arrived family from Guatemala. I almost didn't answer, but the name made me stop. Elijah Muir. His voice was warm, calm, practiced. I'm calling on behalf of the White House, he said. President Ramirez would like to invite you to a private unity dinner on Christmas Eve. I froze. You have the wrong person. You helped stop a deportation in Matamoros 5 years ago, he continued. Using your Spanish, your courage, and a phone call that went way above your pay grade. A boy named Luis. I remembered. Him, 9 years old, wide-eyed, undocumented, clinging to a social worker's leg as ICE agents approached. I had nothing but a folder of appeals and panic in my chest, but I stood between him and that van anyway. Why me? I asked. Elijah paused. Because you never chose yourself. Christmas Eve at the White House was like something from another world. The lights shimmered like frost. I wore the only gown I owned, sapphire blue, my hair pinned up as best I could. At my seat, a place card, unsung American hero. I only spoke for a moment, just a few words. But the camera light blinked red. Live across the country, the Concade family sat around their fireplace, crystal flutes in hand, when the anchor's voice cut in, live from the White House Unity Dinner. Meet the unsung heroes among us. Then, they saw me lit by golden light. Smiling. Bowing slightly as the president acknowledged me. The First Lady taking my hand, leading me to the table of honor. Back at home, Savannah dropped her champagne flute. My mother gasped and fainted onto the tufted settee. Bradley spilled wine across their pristine wool rug. My father calmly stood, walked to the TV, and switched it off. Later that night, after the clinking glasses and soft laughter had faded, I stepped outside into the garden. Snow kissed my skin, sharp, real. I looked up at the stars and whispered, Mom, am I still too heavy for the atmosphere? And I realized then, with my name echoing through the halls of the nation's highest office, I wasn't waiting for their approval anymore. The morning after Christmas was too quiet. The city felt like it had stopped breathing. I was halfway through my coffee when my phone lit up. Mom. I hesitated. Then answered. Her voice was thin, controlled. Can you tell me why the whole country saw you on television while your own family had no idea? I let the silence stretch before I replied. Maybe because you stopped seeing me a long time ago. She didn't flinch. She moved straight to defense. I wasn't trying to push you away. I just thought it would be better, less awkward. Awkwardness. That's what she called being erased. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I told her the truth, something she'd always taught me to avoid if it would make people uncomfortable. You've always wanted stories you could brag about, but you've never actually listened to me. Then I hung up. A few minutes later. A message from Bradley. What's the deal with the White House? Did you hire PR to pull that off? No punctuación. No congratulations. Savannah followed with a screenshot of me from the broadcast on her Instagram story. When your random cousin shows up on national TV like a fever dream. Proof that luck is real, y'all. I turned off my phone. That afternoon, I met Elijah in a cafe near the Capitol. He looked up at me with that same quiet confidence. I never told you the full story, he said. Luis, the boy you saved, he's the nephew of a U.S. senator. If you hadn't stepped in, we might have never seen him again. I was stunned. That moment, that one choice, inspired me to pitch a federal immigration relief program. It passed last year. I could hardly breathe. There's something else, he added. A national interview series, women over 35 who've changed the world quietly. They want to speak to you. I don't know if I belong in something like that, I admitted. That's exactly why you do, he said. People have heard enough from those who always had the mic. It's time to hear from someone who never even asked for one. That night, I sat on my floor, going through an old shoebox of photos. Birthdays, recitals, awkward school dances. Then I found my high school graduation photo. I was class valedictorian. In the center. Smiling, diploma in hand, but in the framed version on the concave hallway wall, I was cropped out. For balance, Mom had said that I stared at it for a long time. Then reached for a lighter. Held the photo to the flame. You always wanted me to be someone of value, I whispered. But you never learned to see value beyond diplomas and headlines. The photo burned to ash. I didn't feel victorious. I felt clear, and finally, untethered. The interview aired that Thursday evening. I watched it alone, legs tucked under me, hands shaking around a chipped mug of tea, soft piano. The host's voice, amplifying voices that once only spoke in silence. Then, my face. Calm. Steady. Real. I spoke about the shelters, the pain. The people. Luis. The moment at the fence. How I shielded him with nothing but my own body. I didn't dramatize it. I told the truth. Then came the question I feared. Is there anything you'd say to your family if they're watching? I paused. Then said, I hope they understand. I never betrayed them. But I had to betray the silence they raised me in. That clip went viral by midnight. By morning, my inbox was overflowing. Amy Coburn, my old lab partner who once said, I was too intense, messaged, Vanessa, I used to think you were weird for doing all that unpaid work. I feel ashamed now. Thank you. Even Uncle Frank, the one who mocked my humanitarian phase, wrote, I was wrong. I never believed kindness could change anything. But then came the message that twisted it all. Not from Mom. She had mastered the art of silence. It was from Savannah, congrats. But remember, media loves a fairy tale. Once they start digging, there might not be much there to keep the magic alive. It wasn't just shade. It was a warning. They weren't just annoyed anymore. I had become a liability, and in a family obsessed with appearances, liabilities get erased. I didn't reply. This wasn't a conversation. This was a line in the sand. That night, I rewatched the interview. At the part where I said, I don't need applause. I just need to be heard, my voice cracked. I hadn't noticed it before. I stood in front of the mirror. I need to be heard, I said aloud. The woman looking back wasn't desperate. She was resolved, not to convince the world. To stop convincing herself she was invisible. Days later, a headline dropped. White House hero once rejected by her own family, and below it, a quote from a gala 5 years ago. My daughter has a beautiful heart, but sometimes, the most well-meaning child is the most exhausting dinner guest. I'd been there that night. Secondhand dress. Clapping from the edge of the room. I'd told myself she didn't mean it. Now. It was everywhere. Twitter. TikTok. Morning shows. The exhausting daughter became a meme. A phrase. A punchline. Bradley called that night. No greeting. You had to drag us into this just to get your 15 minutes? I didn't mention any of you, I replied. That doesn't matter. People read between the lines. We have reputations. Your reputations seem fine, I said. It's your reflection that's the problem. His voice dropped. You'll regret this, Vanessa. I didn't answer. The storm hadn't even crested yet. That weekend, a gossip site teased a hit piece, The Humanitarian Hoax. They claimed I'd exaggerated my work. That I was just a translator. That I clung to the coattails of others. The tips came from Truths from Inside at protonmail.com. Anonymous, but not to me. I knew the writing. The quotation marks dripping with sarcasm. It was Savannah. She wasn't warning me. She was setting the stage. A friend from an NGO sent me a draft. It quoted a former colleague who said I cared more about credit than results. It was all so familiar. Doubt, that's the elite's favorite currency. Plant enough, and even truth begins to drown, Elijah called. His voice was heavy. There. Planning a front page spread. It's not credible, but it'll reach far. The title's The Imposter Hero. I paused. Then said, they couldn't pull this off without help from someone who knows exactly where to cut. He didn't ask who. He didn't have to. I looked out at the snow-covered city. The world felt loud. Hostile, but I didn't feel small. I felt lit, not by rage, but by clarity. Let them write, let them spin, let them try to twist what they'll never understand. They can come for the spotlight, but they can't unmake what's already been seen.